Being a teenager in general can be a roller coaster ride of highs and lows filled with emotions of pride, joy, and a sense of belonging, as well as challenges, doubts, and a constant struggle to navigate your way between different worlds and identities. On top of being a regular teenager, specifically about Jewish teens, we face the struggle every single day, whether it is big or small. For me, I was born into an Israeli-American family and have been brought up with Jewish customs ever since I was born. This has given me a unique perspective on the strengths and struggles that people who practice Judaism face, which is why I find it so important that Jews and non-Jews alike understand what we go through and experience on a daily basis. A common challenge I see amongst Jewish teens is their difficulty to navigate their cultural identity and their desire to fit in with their peers. I attend Sadover Day School, but I also volunteer at an Israeli/Jewish youth group, which has allowed me to create close relationships and bonds with my fellow Jewish volunteers. However, these relationships can be difficult at times, as I don't attend the same school as them, and we both practice different levels of Judaism. Depending on the context, I may decide to completely embrace my Judaism or completely conceal it. This phenomenon is known as code switching and is not particular to one culture or identity. The modification of one's speech, behavior, appearance, etc. to conform to different socio-cultural norms. Asking someone to do this is not an easy task and can be easier said than done. A simple example would be how a child chooses to change the way he or she speaks on a sports field compared to how they speak in a classroom setting. A more complex one would be how someone chooses to spend their few remaining dollars on nicer clothes in order to fit in with their more well-to-do peers. So essentially what this means is that when you're an outsider, it's more difficult to fit in. So essentially, behaving differently depending on the context. When you're in different situations, an Atlanta Jewish teen said, "I don't know how to say it, but I feel more connected and more safe around Jewish people." Safe is the wrong word, but more comfortable around people. So, like I said, it's not an easy thing to ask someone to change the way they speak or behave around different people. What I'm saying is that in an increasingly similar lifestyle where everyone has to conform to social norms, it's less unique and less diverse for people, which is not a world I like to live in. One of the bigger issues that has become more prominent lately is anti-Semitism. According to the Anti-Defamation League, the belief or behavior hostile towards Jews just because they are Jewish. It may take the form of religious teachings that proclaim the inferiority of Jews, for instance, or political efforts to isolate, oppress, or otherwise injure them. It may also include prejudice or stereotyped views about Jews. As Jewish teens enter this critical stage of adolescence, we begin to understand the more dangerous world that we live in today. Recently, at the University of Michigan, a Palestinian protester called for the murder of all Jews. Now, if you're in this crowd and you're thinking to yourself, I'm Jewish and I've never experienced anti-Semitism, you may be saying, if I haven't experienced this yet, it's probably not likely. However, think again. Two of my Israeli friends were recently visiting the University of Michigan just days before this happened. What if they were there just a few days later? Could they have been hurt? Could they have been caught up in the protests? We don't know. And that's why this is such a tricky situation. Navigating faith and tradition while trying to have a normal high school experience can be extremely challenging. For example, having the pressure of needing to conform to societal norms in a mostly secular society, while wanting to maintain certain aspects of your religion, can be challenging. Do we stay in and have a religious family dinner with our friends, or do we go out and have fun? And this leaves us at a crossroads. What do we do? Once again, do we compromise our faith in order to better fit in with our peers? Or do we go out and do we stay in and practice a religion that's thousands of years in the making? The best answer is to find a balance between the two. Essentially, we want to make enough time to have fun with our friends while also practicing the religion that's at our level of comfortability. One of the biggest issues I struggle with as a Jewish teen is being seen as too Jewish or not Jewish enough. I frequently get asked, do you know Hebrew? Do you go to temple or synagogue? If you do, how often do you go? Are you really even that Jewish? Because of questions like these, a Jewish education program participant said, I am Talia Jaffe, a high schooler who identifies as a religious Reform Jew, but is perceived to be a little bit crazy, weirdly passionate, and almost too Jewish. How can I simultaneously be too Jewish and not Jewish enough? This is a question I've struggled with my whole life. What this means is that on one hand, a Jewish teen may be seen as overdoing it when their religious practices are apparent to the general public. This may make them feel insecure, isolated, and even excluded from certain activities that they want to participate in, but they can't. Essentially, we have to lower our level of Jewishness in order to make others comfortable. So think about that for a second. Pleasing others at the expense of us, of our happiness. Specifically, it isn't the concept of being a part of a Jewish or too Jewish or not Jewish enough community. It's about the people apart or within those communities who make you feel bad about how you chose to navigate that divide. On the other hand, Jewish teens may be seen as their level of religion is insufficient or not to the right standard that some people may think is correct. This can lead to people who are already having difficulty finding out who they are in the world, have a struggle or inability to even find out or continue that journey. So what this means is that Jewish teens often face intricate and diverse issues that range from belonging to prejudice to stereotyping and much more. However, it's important to realize that other minority groups and other groups in general are going through similar issues every single day. With this in mind, if we work to create a more compassionate and empathetic society while addressing negative stereotypes and prejudices and promoting cultural diversity and knowledge, we can create a more just and equitable society. However, none of this is possible unless we first address and acknowledge the issues that these groups are facing. As a Jewish teen, I know that my identity has both strengths and struggles to it. But I don't want to paint a bad image about Judaism or about the world. I'm merely trying to raise awareness for what Jewish teens are going through today, in the past, and most likely in the near future. Because of this, I have one last thing to say. Keep educating yourself. Keep learning, keep researching, and keep talking to others of different cultures, identities, nationalities, everything, so we can create a more fair and just society. Thank you.